So we are going to talk about Chris Watts. I haven't talked about this case, oh my gosh, it's been probably 3 or 4 months, I feel like. And that's kind of where I started with the Chris Watts case. That's kind of where I start. Well, it is where I started my channel. So it's kind of feels weird talking about him again, because I did probably 100 of videos. Well, I don't know if it was 100, but a lot of videos. Like my first at least 20 to 40 videos were all on Chris Watts, because there was so much to go through, so many videos, so many pages of the discovery, just so much information to go through, and it was just a fascinating case. I mean, you guys all know that. A lot of you guys are still into it over a year after it happened, and there's people still following it every day. But I had to take a break, because every day I was following it, every day I was making videos, every day I was researching it, every day I was going through all the police body cams, going through the discovery. So I was like, I have to take a break from this case. So it was nice being able to kind of step away from the Chris Watts case and get into some other cases. But I have to talk about this, because there's some new stuff that came out. The new tapes, or the new recordings of him, and basically him calling from jail. Most of you guys probably already seen it. Another creator uploaded these recordings of when Chris called his family. So it's basically Chris talking to his mom, Jamie, Ronnie. Very interesting stuff. A lot of it's hard to understand, so I kind of made some somewhat subtitles, kind of took notes on what was being said. Some things I still haven't figured out when Ronnie talks, because you know what, I call it mumblish, his talk. So I'm still going to go through it and try to perfect and try to basically see if I could get every single thing that they say, so I could relay it back to you. But this video is more going to be, well, I'm going to summarize a lot of the stuff that they say. So a lot of you guys I know I've talked to, and they said, why, we couldn't even understand what they were saying. So this video, we're going to cover a lot of what they said, because I was able to make out a lot, and I took time to go through it over and over. But I do want to get it where I could put subtitles and get every single word, or at least most of the things. I almost got everything, actually, to be honest. So I'm going to go through it, summarize it, and kind of give my thoughts as we're going through what was said. So this goes back Weld County, when he's still in Weld County. So it goes back all the way to November is when he's calling his parents. And it sounds like the one call that he makes to his parents was the first time they had talked to him after everything had happened. Well, besides, they talked to him, I guess I should say, the first time they talked to him after he took the plea. So after they went to the court, and they saw him in court, and they, gave their speeches or whatever, and he took the plea and everything like that. So it starts from the first time he ends up calling them after that. And then it goes on to, probably a couple days after. It's just a few phone calls. You could see it's a matter of I think 2 days. He calls them 2 days in a row. So it's basically those phone calls. It's basically, it sounds like it's Thanksgiving and maybe the day after, or maybe it's the day before and the day after. It's either a span of 2 or 3 days, it sounds like. So it's either the day before Thanksgiving, and then, no, I don't think it's the day after Thanksgiving. I think it's the day before Thanksgiving, and then Thanksgiving. And then there might be a call before that. I don't know. It's hard to make out because they're not in order. Okay, so I'm going to start from where J is for Justice. She's the one that got a hold of these recordings, but basically she has it in part 1 and then part 2. So I'm going to just start from how she laid them out. But it doesn't seem to be actually in order necessarily, but still, it's kind of confusing on what day is what, though. Except the day that is Thanksgiving, we know, because they're talking about how it's Thanksgiving. So, okay, so let's go through this, guys. Well, what I was able to make out. And I was able to make out most of it. There's still some things, like I said, I want to listen to again. And usually I was listening to it all day today, over and over, and wrote out as much as I could hear. But usually, if I take a day break or 2 days and then I go back to it, at least as far as with mumblish, with Ronnie's rumblish. No, I guess we call it mumblish. I don't know. On his other subtitles video, I called it mumblish. But maybe we could think of something that has Ron in it, or Ron. I don't know. I can't think of anything. But when I went back a couple days later and then listened to it, then I was able to hear stuff that the first time I listened to it over and over and turned it up and couldn't hear what it was saying. And then when I took a break and went back to it, like after a couple days, I could hear it clear as day. I was like, oh, that's what it is. I think what it is once you have the other context and you know what that is, then when you go back and listen to it, then the other one kind of falls in, if that makes sense. So you're able to understand what the other stuff is because you have the other context, if that makes sense. So it just takes a couple days. I swear it happens like that. I don't know. It's weird because actually it happened a little bit with just this day I was doing it. On the one day it happened a little bit. For instance, I was doing it, I was listening to it, then I went and ate dinner and came back, and this one part where I could not understand for the life of me, I listened over and over and like, what is he saying? But after I came back after dinner, it was just like clear as day. I was like, oh, that's what he's saying, after the first time listening to it. So that's what I'm hoping to do after I come back after a couple days. Okay, so now that I've rambled for like probably 5 minutes, let me get to the good stuff here. First of all, I want to say, it's really sad listening to this because you hear the desperation in the Watts. Like, this is before, I still don't know what they believe. I still think they believe that Shanann did it. I'm not sure what they really believe in their head. But now, like, this is from when he was still in Weld County. Like I said, this was November, the November after he did it, where he had just taken the plea. They hadn't really got a chance to talk to him after he took the plea. They haven't really got a chance to talk to him like one-on-one period to see what happened. The last they know is what he said in the confession where he said Shanann did it, and they really didn't get a chance to talk to him, and then he takes the plea. So they're under the impression that that first thing, that him saying Shanann did it, they're thinking that that's what's true when they're talking to him. So remember that. But what I'm saying is now, after all this stuff came out, I feel like they still possibly might be in denial, and they still might be hanging on to that thought that Shanann did it. I'm not sure what's in their minds. I know they're probably just having a difficult time admitting that their son did it. As much as they're hearing all this stuff, they heard him confess to it, they're probably almost scared to really accept that because they don't see their son like that. Or their brother, Jamie, that's her brother. You could just hear the desperation in their voice. It's very sad because you could tell that they 100% don't think that he did it. They think that Shanann did it. They think he was railroaded. They even say that he's railroaded into taking this plea. And they're just, well, if you guys listen to it, you know what I'm talking about. It's almost sad, and it's like, I feel for him actually listening to this. Like, oh my gosh. Poor things, they're thinking that their son is basically got railroaded into taking this plea when it was Shanann that did it. That's what they're thinking, and they're hurting really bad. You could tell, and they're very desperate and just like, oh my gosh, we need to get you out of here. Okay, so let's go to the phone call here. So part one. So it starts off by them asking Chris if he's at the same place. And then you hear Cindy saying, hi, how are you doing? And Chris says, good. And Cindy says, are you really? And then Cindy talks about him not receiving the letter until now. So then you get farther along in the conversation where he basically says the letter was sent on the 11th. The Cindy and Ronnie, they sent him a letter on the 11th, November 11th. And he basically didn't get it to Thanksgiving. So I think did Thanksgiving land on the 23rd that month? I think I heard them say it was the 23rd of that year. So it took a couple weeks for him to get it. So you hear Cindy talking about him not getting his letter until that day. And then Cindy says that there's a lot of bad stuff. You hear, oh my God, there's a lot of bad stuff. They're talking about the Ruseks and how basically the Ruseks have been saying stuff. They've been talking crap. Frankie has stuff up on his page saying it's only just begun, and Ronnie says how they said how he had a substance abuse problem, and Jamie was like a rebel moving in and out of the house. So they're saying, yeah, it's bad. Like the Ruseks they are starting all this stuff, is what they're saying. I didn't know Frankie even wrote that on his Facebook page, but I guess back then he said something like it's only just begun. And I remember kind of when some of this gossip was going on, when it came out about Ronnie having substance abuse issues, and when it came out about Jamie being this rebel, moving in and out of the house. I remember when all that came out. So I'm not sure if the Ruseks are the one that put that stuff out. I guess maybe they are the ones. Or did it come out with the Discovery? Because in the Discovery, you read some of that stuff where you could see where Shanae's talking about it in her text, and I think, oh, even Chris talks about it. He's talking to one of the investigators. How, yeah, remember how he's saying, like, this white stuff, I don't know what it was. He was acting like he didn't know what coke was. So it's in the Discovery, and this is about the same time the Discovery came out, so I don't know if they're just assuming that the Ruseks are the ones that started these rumors, because they would be the ones to know this personal stuff, and just because of, you know, Frankie putting that stuff on his Facebook page, and they just thought that they were out to get him, because they just, you know, how they're kind of viewing, how they had, it's like there's rival against the Ruseks. I mean, they both have this rival against each other, and I don't know why. I mean, I'm just gonna leave it at that. But so I don't know if they're just assuming that, because like I said, I feel like I found out about this stuff because of the Discovery, about Ronnie's substance abuse problem, and about Jamie. Well, maybe not Jamie. I'm trying to think where I heard about Jamie always moving in and out. But as far as the substance abuse, I think I learned from the Discovery. But anyway, okay, let's move on here. So Chris asks, is it stuff from before or now? So he's asking if, like, all this gossip and all this stuff that they're talking about, is it stuff from before or is it stuff from now? And that's when she said, well, Frankie said on Facebook, we only just begun. And then Jamie has been getting threatening phone calls and emails, Cindy says, which is a shame. I mean, no family should have to go through that, especially after, I mean, they had to go through a lot too. I mean, not only, they lost 2 grandchildren too, they lost their son basically to prison. I mean, I know it was his own fault, but I'm just saying, they're not the ones that, oh, I'm not even going to go there. But no, nobody should be calling the family threatening them. That's not right. And then Cindy says they have been getting so much support. So many people are behind Chris. So many people are behind you. She just keeps saying that throughout all the phone conversations. Like, oh my God, so many people love and support you. They love and support you. They're behind you. They know, you know, just over and over how much people love Chris. She just made sure Chris knew that. So then you can hear Cindy kind of crying a little bit, and she says, please be safe, because I can't deal with this. And she tells Chris that she loves him so much, and there's nothing she wouldn't do for him, that she's always there for him. They tell him over and over, like, how much they love him and how much they're there for him, and they would do anything for him. There was nothing that they wouldn't do for him. And then Cindy and Ronnie keep saying, don't worry about us, just take care of yourself. So you can almost feel that they're worried that they don't want to put too much stress on Chris. So I feel like the reason they're kind of overdo it is because they're trying to make sure that they're not putting too much stress on him. Because what was mentioned, I forget where I read that a long time ago somewhere. Was it in the book? I forget where it was mentioned, but remember when Ronnie said that Cindy was always worried? Well, more that Ronnie was worried that he would have to tell Cindy, like, to basically settle down and be careful what she tells Chris on the phone, because he didn't want that to be the last thing that he heard, and then he would have to sit there and think about it for days or however long before he got to talk to him again. And it was almost like they were worried about, I don't know if they thought he was suicidal or something, but I don't know if you remember that comment. I'm pretty sure it was in that book that came out, the letters from Christopher, or was it, man, it's been so long since I even looked into this case. I don't know if it was in the book, or I don't think it was in the Discovery, but do you know, remember what I'm talking about? But what my point is I think the reason they're over, like, oh, we love you and don't worry about it, and they're just overly doing it, is because they're trying not to make him stressed, because they don't know each time if that's the last time they're going to talk to him for a while, because they kind of don't have control over when they talk to him. It sounds like they hadn't talked to him, well, like what, in a month or two? Let's see, that was November 23rd, let's say, around that time when they finally are talking to him on the phone here. And that happened August 13th. So, and then by the time he got arrested was, well, August 15th, I think it was, when he got arrested. So that's basically 3 months that they really haven't talked to him on the phone, it sounds like. So when they're talking to him, they're finally talking to him, they're like, we don't, if this is the last time we get to talk to him for another 3 months, or who knows how much longer we'll be, you know, that we get to talk to him next. So they want to make sure that he's not stressed, they don't leave him on a stressful note, and that he knows how much they love them. I don't blame him for that. Like, I know if you were listening to this just, and this was just like, you're listening to this as like a parent's talking to their son, and just on a normal day, you'd be like, wow, that's a little bit overdone. Like, chill out. Like, how much, oh, we love you, we love you. But you got to remember that they don't know when the next time they're going to talk to him. They don't know. Is it going to be another 3 months? Is what if something happens? Jail could be a dangerous place. A lot of people aren't very happy with him. We heard how it was in Colorado for him. After he got transferred to Wisconsin, he told us how people were basically saying some nasty things to him, threatening his life, telling him to take his own life, just all kinds of stuff. I think that's why they're overdoing it. I can understand that. And then Chris says to tell Jamie he's sorry it's happening to her, basically sorry that she's getting threats, and just tell her I'm sorry. And then this is the part I'm a little confused, because Cindy talks about this girl, and for some reason I was thinking that she was talking about the lady that stood up in court. That's what I thought she was originally talking about. But then later on, you hear Ronnie say, he brings that part up again, and I don't think that was what she was originally talking about, because he brings it up and says, we meant every word of what that lady relayed to us and what your mom said that day in court. We meant every word of it. But at this part, they're saying something different about some lady. So it must not be that lady that talks to Chris. Remember when he takes the plea deal in court and they have the lady read the letter and kind of talk for him, but Cindy read her own. And Ronnie even says he got so choked up and emotional he couldn't read his own, so they had her just in case to talk for him. I'm pretty sure that's not what she's talking about here because of what the conversation later that they bring up. Okay, so I don't know, there must be some other lady. So Cindy said she don't agree with what that woman said that day. She talked on top of her head. So she talked to the top of her head like nothing was planned. She was just talking, not what they wanted her to say at all. She said she was manipulative. It wasn't their story. It wasn't what they wanted her to tell him. And I think, did they call her Jean? I don't know, I have a Jean written down here. But it was some like lady from the victims advocates. I remember her saying something like that. Victims advocate group. They didn't like this lady, basically. They said, oh, and then Chris kind of responds and said, he was asking about Nicole and what Nicole said in the paper. So was he talking about NK? That's what I was wondering. I think he was talking about NK and that article that NK did in the paper. Remember right away, like right after all that happened, there was an article that was NK's interview or whatever that she did with the reporter for the paper. I'm pretty sure that's who Chris is asking about, what Nicole said in the paper. He brings it up. But Sydney goes back talking about this Gene person. And basically how Gene said they accepted what he did and that wasn't true. So she's like, well, yeah, this victims advocate lady or whatever, she said was basically she thought it was working for the DA. It was somebody the DA had in their pocket. And I guess that lady told Chris that Ronnie and Cindy accepted what Chris had done. So almost like, well, admitting that Chris had done that and they accepted that he did that. He's the one that did it. And Cindy's like, that's not true. That's not what we said. We don't believe that. And if you notice, Chris keeps saying he has to go. He has to go. You feel this uncomfortable tenseness, I should say. And because he knows that he did it and he could tell that his parents are really thinking that he didn't, and they keep bringing it up and saying, oh, we know you're a railroader. We believe you. We know you didn't do it. Will you fight it? And he keeps changing the subject, and you could just tell that he feels very uncomfortable because he knows he did it and he hasn't been able to tell his parents yet. He doesn't know how to tell them yet. We even know in, February when he does that interview at Wisconsin with the FBI, with Tammy and Coder and Baumhofer, he does that interview with him and he even says, please don't say anything, because he didn't want the interview to get out before he was able to tell his parents that he did it and what happened. So he tells them, please, I want to be able to tell them they're supposed to come visit me. I want to be able to tell them first before they hear it in some interview or discovery or however that they were going to release it. And I'm still not 100% sure that Coder, Baumhofer, and Tammy waited for him to tell his parents, because they even told him that they wouldn't release that picture, and they did. That picture they took of Chris was just for them, and they put that out. So I don't know if they did put the interview and what Chris said out before they let Chris tell his parents. I don't know if they did. That would be kind of crappy though if they said, yeah, we'll make sure that happens, and then they don't go on their word. But so the second phone call, now this is Thanksgiving, but I swear the day that they're talking about him getting a letter was Thanksgiving too. Oh, so maybe that first one that was played was the day after Thanksgiving? I'm not sure, but I know the second phone call is for sure Thanksgiving, because Ronnie starts off by saying he's cooking the turkey outside. Jamie gets on the phone. She sounds exactly like Cindy. Oh my gosh. So there's parts where I don't know if it's Cindy or Jamie talking. So I have it's either Cindy or Jamie. They sound so much alike. Now, Cindy has a little bit of a higher pitch tone than Jamie, and a little bit of a little he, all right, that sounded kind of weird, but she just has that little more, I don't know how to explain it, but it's a little bit more higher pitched than Jamie, but it's still really hard to tell because Cindy doesn't always use that high pitch. Sometimes she has that lower pitch where you cannot tell. But anyway, so they keep saying they love him and believe him and wants him to fight. But the thing is when they're telling him they believe him, they're talking about believing him on that first confession when he is making up that big lie about Shanann doing it and all that stuff. So that's what they keep referring to. We believe you, we believe you. When he had already come up and took the plea and basically admitted to doing it, but he hadn't come out with another confession until in February. He does. So that's what they keep referring to. And Chris is like, I took the plea for a reason. He even tells Coder and Tammy that. They keep saying that. They're holding on to that belief. But do you blame them? I mean, that's their son. They didn't see it coming. They thought he was the sweetest guy. They just never thought he could do something like that. So they don't like Shanann to begin with, so they're probably more, it's easier for them to believe his first confession. Not saying that it's right, but it's probably easier for his family to believe that because that's their son and they can't see him hurting anybody, and they didn't even like Shanann for some reason. I'm just saying, I'm not saying it's right, but I'm just saying for them in this moment, it's easier to believe that his first story than to believe what really happened. And I think they're still struggling to believe what really happened because we don't even know Chris. Most of us don't even know Chris. And I feel like that's one of the reasons why we're all fascinated and why it hits so close to home for a lot of us, because we saw that, wow, Chris seemed like a nice guy. He didn't seem like that type of person, at least at first glance. Now, once you know the situation, then you're able to dig deeper because you're like, there has to be some signs because this happened, so we're missing something. And then you dig, then you could see things. But if you're not looking and you just are like, oh, they're not really digging, you're not thinking to look deeper and really look into him, then you're going to miss it. Just like his family missed it. So it's hard for them to really admit that and see that because they're not seeing it. I mean, I understand that, I guess, but now after all the time has passed and how much information is out there and what Chris has already said, they should hopefully now slowly be able to admit it because they have to. I mean, at least publicly, or at least they can't go around keep saying and thinking that Shanann did it because that's not fair to Shanann. So if they personally just don't want to admit it to themselves, that's fine. But to go out and actually publicly say the lie that Shanann did it, that's not right. Now, at first, I see why they maybe thought that. But now, after more information has come out, Chris has said that it wasn't true, then they need to accept it. I mean, I guess they don't have to personally accept it, but publicly accept it because they can't sit there and bash in a good woman's name for something that she didn't do. So anyway, Cindy said if a lawyer comes up to him, take it. She keeps talking about if a lawyer ever comes, please talk to him. Just take it. Take whatever they want to help you with. And Cindy or Jamie, because I can't tell on this instance if it was Cindy or Jamie, but one of them says to Chris that, I think this was Jamie actually. She says to Chris, you were railroaded. and that they love him, and that they are right here and not to give up. So they really think that he's railroaded. I do believe, at least for sure in this conversation, in these conversations, that they really do believe this. They believe that first story. I believe they sincerely believe it. Now I believe that they shouldn't believe it anymore because he's been open and told what happened. So now they're probably just in denial. But I do believe these conversations is when they really believe that first scenario that Chris told. Jamie tells him not to give up, and she says it's not the end of your story. She says do whatever to find your voice. Don't give up. I believe so much. And I don't know what that's supposed to mean. She said I believe so much. So I don't know if she's talking about she believes in God so much, or she believes his first story so much, but she's just trying to give him some words of encouragement. So that's all right. And she says do what you need to do. I love you no matter what, either way. So they do make sure that though they add that in case if for some reason that he really did do it. So that right there makes you realize that they are open to the possibility that maybe he did do it, because him and Cindy and Ronnie had said at least once, they say it throughout these conversations, I think they say it a few times, that either way that they love him. So they're open to the fact that there's a possibility that he may have done that, because why would they say that they love him no matter what, either way, if they 100% believe that he didn't do it? So obviously there's some doubt for them to say that. So Cindy keeps saying, don't give up, promise me. Cindy says, there's so much to point out. I mean, no one's told you, and then asks if he got their letters. So I don't know what she's referring to about there's so much to point out, no one's told him. Is she referring to the discovery? Because they do go on to talk about the discovery a lot, and they think it's like a good thing that the discovery went out, because they think it's a good thing of what's in the discovery, because they said they don't have anything, they have no evidence, it's just all theories. And then Chris says he's staying strong. And Cindy said, I did whatever I had to do to talk to you, honey. I never believed it. I did whatever they wanted me to do so I could talk to you. I never believed it. So she's still going on this side that Chris is sitting there. Poor Chris. He took the fall for Shanann. He didn't do it, but he's taking the fall for her. And, Cindy's thinking, oh my God, yeah, that's my son. I never believed it. All these other people, poor Chris, are calling him all these bad names, and he took the fall for her, and he didn't do it, and it's like that he's some hero or something. And so, once again, though, for the time and what she probably believed at the time, do you blame her for saying that stuff? No. It's pretty normal for someone at the moment, for his family who believe that he did take the fall. Most likely. Of course, there obviously is a little bit of doubt, because they all three at one point in these conversations say, either way we love you. So they're all, obviously there's a little bit of doubt, but for the most part they really believe that first story. So I guess you can't blame them for some of this stuff, at least at this time. And like I said, after so much stuff comes out, then you're like, okay, you gotta accept it already. You can't keep denying it and bashing an innocent woman. You have to finally accept that your son did it. But I don't know if they have yet, because I haven't been following this case anymore. So I don't know what all the gossip and behind the scenes, what's currently going on. Maybe you guys could fill me in on that. Anyway, so she says, oh, so yeah, you can tell that he isn't connected at all. He's not. Chris is not connected, because he knows he did it, and his family is all thinking that he didn't. So he's always changing the subject, and they're telling him one thing and he's saying something else. Like when they say, like, oh, are you gonna fight it, or we know you didn't do it, he'll just be like, yeah, I'm staying strong, I'm all right. It's just like he doesn't know what to say. And do you blame him? As far as how do you tell your family that you freaking murdered your freaking whole family, and your kids included, their grandkids included? So this was just 3 months after it, so he's trying to I guess, work up a way to tell them. But that's what makes me wonder, did he ever officially tell them that? He did, right? He said he was going to, and that book came out. Or was it just that book and he's like, okay, read the book and that's my answer to you? Or do you guys know if he ever officially told them that he did it, or it was just kind of through the book that he said that read the book? It makes you wonder. Okay. So Cindy says there's so much out there and so much support out there. And then Ronnie tells them how they released the 2,000 pages and they have nothing but a theory. Cindy says, all they have is a theory. They have nothing. And her, Ronnie, you're going on there so happy. Yeah, they have nothing. They all this is a theory. This discovery. They don't have anything. And then Chris says this weird statement, which I find kind of odd. But he says, all that stuff about the other woman and what they released actually helped. So Chris is calling NK the other woman. It just sounds kind of disconnected because it's his case. He's talking about his other woman. And it's a very disconnected way of viewing it by saying, oh, the stuff about the other woman. He's disconnected himself from the case and from the other woman, NK. But anyway, I don't know why he thinks it helped, but he said it actually helped. And Cindy said, it's okay, it's okay. She says, yes, it did help. What she said did help, and what they pulled off your phone was good. I don't know why, I'm confused why they all three are like, this discovery was like the best thing that could have happened for the case. Like, oh yeah, what they pulled off the phone. She was like, almost like proud of what they pulled off the phone, the way she was saying it. Like, yeah, and what they pulled off the phone was so good. Like, I don't get that. I don't. And for them to both think that it helped, don't get that part, but oh well here. And then Cindy said, let someone come talk to you. And Jamie said, yes, let them. And then they all say that Chris has to okay it and request one. Basically request a lawyer, an attorney. Cindy tells them that someone is going to come talk to him. But they can't do anything without Chris okaying it. So they're trying to get Chris to agree to have a lawyer come talk to him. Because they need to get him to okay it for the lawyer to be able to come talk to him. He never does agree because we all know why. He knows that he did it. I mean, number one, hopefully because he wants to take responsibility for what he did, and he knows he did it, and that's what he needs to do, just be a man and take that responsibility. And number two, realize that how could he possibly win? I mean, he did it. How are they going to prove that he didn't do it? How are they going to raise enough reasonable doubt to prove that everything points to him? There's no other evidence against Shanann besides if he would decide to fight it, him saying that she did it. That would be the only evidence they would really have against her. So yeah, that's why he never really agrees. He never says okay. You'll see throughout this how he changes the subject when they try to ask him. But anyway, so Sydney says that they can't do anything without Chris okaying it. Sydney says, we support you 100% and you're gonna get out of there. And Chris is trying to change the subject. He keeps trying to change the subject, saying that these are only 10-minute calls, so I don't have much time. And he checks how much time, he even checks with somebody how much time he has. And Chris knows that it's his lie that they keep saying they believe. It's that first lie, that first confession. So you can tell he just feels very uncomfortable and very like, okay, I need to get off the phone here. So Chris changes the subject. He asks about the gymnastics competition. I'm guessing that it was Jamie's daughter or son or both. I don't know. No, yeah, they said her. So yeah, it must have been Jamie's daughter's gymnastics competition. And they all were like, oh, like, because they're like, oh, he's so thoughtful. Look, he's in jail and all this happened to him and he's asking about this gymnastics competition. And Jamie says, don't worry about that. We just want to hear about you. We've been waiting for you to call. So, I mean, but I understand. 3 months, it sounds like. That's what I'm guessing. There might have been some kind of, it sounds like there was some kind of median person that would, that they talk through maybe. But it sounds like besides that, and then besides that, the court where Sydney got to read that to Chris, but didn't even really get to talk. It sounds like this was the first time that they were actually talking to him. So basically in 3 months, besides these quick times where they never really got to actually talk to him directly. I get it, where they're like, we just want to hear about you. We finally get to talk to you. We finally get to hear your voice. So then they said they only went on the victims thing so they could talk to Chris. So that's one of the things I was just talking about. To kind of talking to him through the advocate person, I'm thinking. I'm not 100% sure on that whole thing because it was hard to make out some of the stuff they were saying. But I think that's where they're talking about that one lady that they didn't like what she was saying, and she was supposed to be speaking for them. They didn't agree what she was saying. But then Chris said he can't do anything with that. He says basically that he's got to be represented by a lawyer to maybe communicate that way. And then they asked Chris when they were going to move him. And Chris says it could be tomorrow, could be Monday, could be Tuesday. They just show up and they do it. So they don't give him any warning. And then, like I said, I'm going to go over this again. This part was a little blurry about the evaluation center over by the airport. So I'm going to listen to this chunk of conversation again because I missed a lot. But they're talking about the evaluation center over by the airport. Cindy asks if he will consider fighting. So I don't know. I think they're talking about him going to be evaluated, and then when he goes to do that he won't be able to talk to them. He won't be able to call them for a big chunk of time. I think they even mentioned like it could be like a month or 45 days. So I don't know if that's what he's talking about. Like he's going to be in this evaluation center for that long where he won't be able to make phone calls. Who knows? And who knows if he's just making that as an excuse because he doesn't want to talk to them until he gets up the nerve to tell them what happened, because you could tell he's feeling very uncomfortable talking to them, at least at certain parts when they start bringing up these certain things. So, and then there's a part, I think, after the first couple times of talking to them, he feels, you can tell he's more comfortable. The conversation is just a little bit less tense. So Cindy asks if you'll ever consider fighting. And this is where Chris doesn't answer. This is what he says. I'm going to stay strong. I'm not losing any faith. Trust me, I got my Bible, and when I'm down, it's like the next verse is waiting for me to read the next verse. So he never says yes, that he'll consider fighting. He just always switches the subject. Cindy says, please consider fighting. And then Ronnie said, a lot of people after that, which she's talking about after the discovery came out, so after that came out questioning a lot of things. And Chris says, well, I'm not sure why they released it, but they did, and he was told what was in it. So Chris is saying he was told what was in the discovery. He doesn't know why they released it, though. Why they released it to the public, and maybe why they did it at that time, too. And then Cindy and Jamie both say they have nothing. It's just a theory. I wish we could have talked to you these last 3 months. So it was 3 months. Okay, yeah. So 3 months, that's what I'm saying, 3 months. That's a long time to hear that last confession. So you're thinking, you believe your son, so you think that's what really happened. And then you see him take a plea, which is basically going to take away his whole life. And then you're not able to talk to him for 3 months. So that had to be very hard. I know we could sit here after the fact, knowing what happened, and say, how could you even believe that? But that's their son. They don't have the whole after effect to look back. It was happening in the moment, okay? So that's what they thought really happened. So they say they wouldn't let you call us. You don't do what everyone is telling you to do. You have to go with what you think is right. I don't know if they really wouldn't let Chris call them, or Chris just said that to them because he didn't want to have to answer to them, because he knew he was going to take the plea. He knew he did it, and he knew if he talked to them, they would be like, you got to fight it, and do anything in their power to say, fight it, fight it, fight it. You're not going to take the fall for her. I don't know. I'm thinking maybe he could have kind of told a little lie there because he didn't want to deal with it at the time. But in their head, in their eyes, they think that they wouldn't, basically that they didn't let Chris call them. Okay, so, and that's when Jamie says, don't do what everyone is telling you to do. You have to go with what you think is right. That's because they think that he just got railroaded and just basically did what the DA and lawyers were telling him to do, and that he didn't do it. So yeah, you could tell that's what they really believed, especially after this conversation. You could tell they really believe this stuff. And Chris kind of changes the subject in a way. He says all calls go to the DA. So he's kind of making an excuse of why he doesn't want to talk about this right now, because he doesn't want it. He's not ready to tell them. I don't blame him. I mean, I feel like they wouldn't be ready to accept it. There's no way they would be able to accept it at this moment, that they would believe him. They'd be like, no, you're lying for shenanigans. And they still haven't been able to accept it. Like a whole year later, I feel like. So maybe he just knew they weren't going to be able to accept it right at this moment to tell them what really happened. So Cindy says, we just wanted to say we would support and love you. And then Chris responds to that by saying all the calls go to the DA. Who cares if he would say that, well, if he ever does try to fight it, I guess. So I'm saying, who cares if he would say that he did it? He's already, he already took the plea deal. He's already spending his life in jail for it. So who cares on the phone if he told him that he did it? So that's just an excuse because he already took the plea, which is admitting that he's guilty. But that's just an excuse because he's not ready to talk to his parents about it. He doesn't know what to say. He's just changing the subject and just basically saying, I can't, all the calls go to the DA. But anyway, so Cindy and Jamie says, we support you 100%. We know what she was like. What? We know what she was like. Wow. Oh, see, remarks like that. But you got to remember, though, this is when they think that she did that. So it doesn't excuse the way they treated her, though, before that. Because we saw and heard, well, we heard about it and it was horrible. But in this moment, if they really believe that she did that, then I'm not saying it's right, but it's just you got to put yourself in their mindset at the moment and kind of come from a place where they're at the moment. So anyway, yeah, this is the part where I can't tell if it's Cindy or Jamie saying this because they sound so much alike. But one of them said, we know what she was like. We just love you. They could record all they want. And then Chris says, just remember, she was a wonderful woman too. I don't want the last memory to be like something negative. And see, because he knows that he's the one that did this stuff and that she didn't, and that they're thinking all this stuff, and so it's a part of him, I guess, trying to make it somewhat right, and him not having the guts to tell him right then that Shanahan didn't do it. It's almost like he's kind of giving him a hint, he's trying to give him some hints that she didn't do this. Just basically easing his way into actually being able to tell him that it wasn't her. So maybe it's a little bit of guilt. I don't know if it is, if he even has that feeling. I mean, and then they say, none of this should have happened. And then he says, I don't want anyone's memory to be negative because she was a wonderful woman. They all say, oh, it's not, which I think is kind of not truthful because their last memory isn't that she's a wonderful woman. Obviously, because they're still, from just what they say and just things, I think they're still saying some mean stuff about her. So they obviously are not being that truthful there, because for them to say that their last memory is not negative, that's not true, because it's very negative. We know that. As far as I'm talking about, their memory of her is very negative. But then they say, we don't want you to be forgotten in this either. We are fighting for you. And Chris says, I can hang up and call you back. I have more time. And they get all excited. Like, yeah, call us back. Because they hadn't heard from him in 3 months. And now, for a few days, he's calling them a couple days in a row. So they're very excited. So he calls right back after that. And Cindy says, Mark wants to know if you can call him. We know Mark Jameson. That's his old friend, basically, growing up. Like his old, basically, it sounds like that was like his only really good friend growing up. It's like his best friend. So anyway, Chris says he doesn't have his number, and Cindy says that she can get it. And then she says, Mark Jameson, do you have a pen and paper? And Chris says he doesn't have access to that. But doesn't Chris have that Rain Man memory? Like, why wouldn't he be able to remember a phone number? I mean, we all used to remember hundreds of phone numbers growing up. It's only 10 numbers? I mean, for someone that has this great memory and that gets nicknamed the Rain Man, you think he would be able to remember a 10-digit number, but he says he doesn't have access to a pen and a paper, so she doesn't give him the number then. And then Chris says he will wait, and then Cindy asks Chris how he is, and Chris says he's all right, that he's hanging in there. And then Ronnie asks, when are they going to move him? So he's like, when are they going to move you? And Chris says he doesn't know. And then Cindy asks where Chris is now in the jail, like what part of jail is he in? And Chris says he's in some random place. So then this is part 2. As far as Jay's videos, it's the beginning of her part 2 recordings. And so it seems like it's the conversation continued from this part 1. So he says that him and Shanahan had tickets to the game today, because him and Ronnie are talking about, I don't know if it's a football game, but they're talking about the game, a certain game. And yeah, Chris says that him and Shanahan had tickets to that game today. And he mumbles something, Chris mumbles something like every little day comes around, like talking about some of these days that I think that come around, that maybe that they had plans or the dates or memories or something like that. And then Ronnie says, were the kids going? And then Cindy, it sounds like she's kind of just trying to like change the subject in a way, because remember, she thinks that Shanae is the one that did that to the kids. So when Ronnie brings up about the kids, I think Cindy's like thinking, oh, Chris, I mean, this is going to be too, hurt Chris too much. It's going to be too sad. So Cindy says, oh, honey, I'm so sad. I don't know how to get out of this. I just don't know how. We love you so much. And then Cindy says, let us know what you need. And Chris says, I will. And then Ronnie says, when you get where you're going, let us know what you can have so we can get it to you. And Cindy says, I miss you so much. And Chris says, I miss you too. So Cindy says there's this girl, Kim Cox, I think that's what she says that her name is. Don't quote me on this, but it sounds like she's saying Kim Cox really has been helping them. Talking to Mark, been such a supporter. She lives in Utah, but relatives are in Weld County. This lady that's a big supporter's relatives work for Weld County. So it sounds like she's saying possibly maybe some of them are working in the jail or something, but they work for Weld County. So she says that Kim believes in him and she's fighting for him. And Chris is just quiet. Okay, he doesn't really say anything. And then they keep saying how much they support Chris. Then Cindy says she won't bombard him until she comes and sees him, and then she wants to give him a big hug. And then she asks about the attorney again, like, well, if attorney came, would you talk to him? And Chris said, not this weekend. And who is this Amy? Because she keeps mentioning how Amy was going to come see him, and Chris mentions how Amy does come and visit him. But anyway, she said, does Amy still come see you? Chris said, yeah, she was there Thanksgiving morning. And then they tell him, Jamie sends her love and support. And Cindy says, we all support you so much. And Chris says, sorry about the emails and phone calls. And they say, don't worry about that. We're strong. We can handle anything. And this is Cindy saying that. We can handle anything that anyone puts out there. I don't care. This is Cindy. I don't care. We can handle anything. Because once again, they're trying to make him not take this all on himself. It's like almost like they're worried about him taking it all on himself, because I think he took this fall for Shanae, and like poor Chris, they don't want him. I don't know if they think, like I said, that he's maybe gonna, I don't know if they're scared about what he could do if he's that depressed, but they don't want him to worry. And so they're just like, I don't care, we can handle it, we can handle anything anybody puts out. I know who you are, the kind of man you are. They don't know you, they don't know us. There are haters everywhere. But there's a lot of love too. So many letters from everywhere. Thousands of messages of people who support and love you. And then they say, ever since the discovery came out, there's a whole lot of people questioning it a lot. A whole lot is being questioned. Chris says, I know. And then Ronnie says, you have a whole lot of support and love. And Cindy says, we will do anything you want. Ready to take it all on. And then she said, the woman that read us victims' right. So this is the part I was talking to you that they mentioned before about that woman. See, that I'm so confused, because was there two different court things, that maybe the one we saw and there was another one? Because when Cindy brings up this woman talking for her, she says how bad it is. And then Ronnie brings up that woman, and you could tell the one that for sure that Ronnie's talking about is that one that we all saw, where Cindy reads hers and then she has to read Ronnie's, because you'll see that that's what Ronnie's talking about. But when Cindy keeps talking about this, I don't know who she's talking about, because why would they can't be talking about the same thing, because Ronnie, just listen. Okay, yeah, I'll just read this part, and then remember that for when I read the part where Ronnie's talking about it. So she said, the woman that read us victims' rights in the courtroom, nothing she said was correct. Nothing is correct. Horrified of her talking on our behalf. She was in the DA's pocket. Nothing she said was correct. We just felt like we were in an enemy territory. We just wanted to talk to you. And when you didn't get our letter, I didn't know what to think. I thought you didn't want to talk to us. So there must have been maybe another instance in the courtroom, probably, where somebody talked basically on their behalf. And then maybe it was after that they got that other lady to basically kind of talk on their behalf. If you remember when he took the plea, the part that we all saw, maybe that was after, and they got somebody else to kind of talk on their behalf, and then Cindy read her letter, And then she read Ronnie's. Because they can't be talking about the same one. Because you'll hear what Ronnie says then. Yeah, so she says, we just wanted to talk to you, and when you didn't get our letter, I didn't know what to think. I thought you didn't want to talk to us. But remember, it's because the letter took so long to get there. She said she overnighted the letter, so she thought he would get it the next day. And when a couple weeks passed and he hadn't got it yet, so she thinks that he's ignoring her, that he never responded, didn't call, didn't write back, he doesn't want to talk to us. She thought she didn't know what to think. But here, it just took that long for him to get the letter. At least that's what he's saying. Which probably makes sense. It probably does take a while in jail because they have to go through it and stuff like that. But you think if she did overnight it, well, no, because they probably have hundreds of stuff they have to go through. So it does probably take a while. But anyway, so Cindy says she didn't know what to think anymore. Attorneys wouldn't let us talk to you. Chris says that's pretty much how it works. So, you know, he kind of is like, going like, yeah, that's just how it works. So it makes me wonder if that's because he didn't want to talk to them. That was on his part, that he told his lawyers he didn't want to talk to them because he wasn't ready to basically have them try to talk him out of taking the plea because they don't know the truth. He didn't want to have to tell them the truth yet. He wasn't ready for it. So I just wonder if he kind of lied and acted like the lawyers wouldn't let him talk to him, or told his lawyers to act like that they wouldn't let him talk to him because he didn't want to talk to him. And maybe that's why he's kind of sticking up for him, like, oh, that's pretty much how it works, because he knows that they didn't do anything and he was him. I don't know. I just think that he was kind of behind it in a way that because he didn't want to talk to them. He wasn't ready. I mean, maybe there could be a little bit of truth in there. They're probably not allowed to talk to him directly, or, I don't want to say that, but by themselves. So there could be a little bit of truth to that. But I'm sure if they wanted to somehow talk video or somehow or on the phone, I think that they would let him talk before 3 months, wouldn't they? Unless if the lawyers didn't want him to, or the DA didn't want him to turn back and not take the plea. But no, everybody has rights. He has a right for a phone call. He has a right to make phone calls. So I believe that he was partly behind why they didn't talk to him. And he blamed it on the lawyers, is what I'm thinking. Or they just assumed it was the lawyers and he just didn't say otherwise. But yeah, so he's kind of just sticking up for, oh, that's pretty much how it works. And then he says that they don't want people to lose emotions and say what happened. So he talking about if the lawyers would let him talk to his family, or they would lose him. I don't know. I don't totally understand why he said that. Okay, so this must be when that conversation where Chris calls Ronnie and he's still at work. So Ronnie says, how are you? And Chris says, I'm hanging in there. Chris says he's still at Weld County. So Chris says that he didn't know if Ronnie was still going to be at work. You know, when he called, he wasn't sure if he was still at work. And Ronnie says, yes, I am. And Chris says, I'm okay. It was pretty horrible. So they're talking about, you know, at the court situation. Well, we all saw it with the DA reading that stuff about what a horrible person and a monster Chris was, and everything that he basically did to his daughters and the judge, all saying all that stuff about Chris. So Chris is saying, I'm okay with it. It was pretty horrible. Ronnie says, yep, we were there. I'm proud of you, proud of what you're doing. So, you know, at first you could think, oh my God, how could you be proud of your son for murdering his family? But then you got to remember that he thinks that he's taken the fall for Shanann, and that Shanann really did it. So that's why he said that. Because at first I was like, well, I mean, how do you say you're proud of your kid for doing that? What, for killing his family? But he's saying it because he thinks, like I said, that he's taken the fall for Shanann, so he's proud that he's doing that for her name, basically, when he thinks he's innocent. But wow, I'm proud that you could go through all this. You just lost your kids and you're able to go through this and taking the fall, but they still want him to fight, but just kind of proud that he is going through all this and he's staying strong and he's able to do it because they think that he didn't do it. So Chris said, I wasn't sure if you were coming. Thanks for coming. And then Ronnie said that lady, she was the defense attorney, but not on the case, but advocate for victims' rights because we are victims because Belle and Cece. So she got us in. Chris says, that was awesome what you said. Thank you. And he said, I wanted to say a lot more. After your mother spoke, I kind of lost it. So I couldn't really say anything else. Chris says, I was crying. You couldn't see because of my glasses. I know the paper said I didn't, but I was definitely crying through everything. So Ronnie says, I know it took a lot to get through what you got through. And then Chris says, it was horrible. And a part of this sentence, I don't know, I can't understand, but he says something about like he's thankful he doesn't have to go to court again or something to that fact. And then Ronnie says, I know this is being recorded, but if you decide to fight this, we'll be right there to fight. And Chris says, I know, I got plenty of letters. I got a few letters from people that I've known telling me to fight. I just don't want everyone to go through this all again. Then Ronnie says, we didn't get to talk to you before the plea. Your mother said if you want to fight this, all you have to do is say yes, and we can have people there. And Chris says, I know. And Ronnie says, they can't approach you unless you okay it. And Chris says, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to take responsibility for it. This is all recorded anyway, but I can't really talk about this on the phone. I don't think I ever will, just because it's not going to bring anyone back. So also it's his way of basically not ever having to tell his parents what he did. So he keeps using the excuse because it's recorded. But if they really think about it, okay, let's say that he didn't do it. Why would he care if it's recorded if he's telling his parents that he didn't do it? That doesn't make any sense. He should want it to be recorded if he's innocent. So it doesn't make sense. He keeps using that as an excuse, but that would be a reason to talk about it more. If he asked me if he was innocent and he was just talking about how he didn't do it. But then Ronnie says, maybe when they move ya. And he says, I don't know how those phone calls and stuff are done, but maybe talk to you about what you want to do. So he's saying like when they move you to a different place, maybe then we could talk. I don't know if he's saying like, are they always going to be recorded? I don't know how they do it, but there's a way that somehow we could talk and you could talk to your attorney and we could figure this out when it's better to talk. Is Ronnie's just trying to figure out a time and what needs to be done. And then Chris talks about when I was approached to go to the diagnostics and evaluation, probably won't call much. So basically he's saying when he goes to the diagnostics and evaluations, he probably won't call much from there. Not sure how long he'll be there. And Ronnie says it would be nice to go somewhere on the East Coast so we don't have to fly all the way there to be closer to see you. Ronnie talks about putting money on the card and talks about sports. Says mother has a glass of wine. So he's talking about Cindy drinking a glass of wine, I guess. And Chris says, with everything that was said in that courtroom, I thought of having some alcohol that day in court for sure. And then Ronnie says, that's for sure. Think about some things. We can talk or whatever. Keep your head up and just know we're always here for you, son. We meant everything we said in the statement your mother read and the other lady read for me. And Chris says, thank you. But see, he's saying those statements that they read in the court that we saw, the plea that we saw. So he's saying that they meant everything that was said then. So there has to be another situation that they keep talking about where the lady didn't say what they wanted to say. Anyway, so Ronnie says, just remember that we're all here for you and Jamie loves you. And Chris says, hopefully I get to talk to everyone tomorrow when I call tomorrow. And Ronnie says, we'll all be looking forward to that, believe me. And then Chris says, I don't want the thing to cut us off. And Ronnie says, we love you, be good, take care of yourself, be safe. Chris says, I will, bye. And then we got the next call. Cindy says, okay, we're back, talk to us, we want to hear your voice. And Chris says, how's Thanksgiving going so far? And Cindy says, well, we're just cooking. Actually, so some of these times when I'm saying it's either Cindy or Jamie, I could have it mixed up. Because like I said, they sound so much alike. So don't take my word for if I say this is Cindy and it is Jamie. Or if I say this is Jamie, it's Cindy. Because I might have got some of it mixed up. But anyway, so Chris says, how's Thanksgiving going so far? Cindy says, well, we're just cooking. Ronnie says, it's so good to hear your voice. And Jamie says, yeah, it doesn't matter about anything else. And Ronnie says, do you know how happy your mother and sister were last night? Cindy says, oh my God, I finally went to sleep. I haven't been able to sleep. I've worried so much about you. You just don't know how much you're loved. You just don't. And Ronnie says, your mother had happy tears for a change. And Chris says, I can only have an hour out each day, so it's kind of like I'm forced if I'm going to call. And Cindy says, Cedric, I couldn't hear the name. I tried to listen to it a few times. Like I said, I'm going to go back over this in a couple days and try to get it perfected on, will never be perfected with the mumblish, but try to hear a little bit better on some things. But it sounds like she says Cedric. I don't know what name she says, but Cedric or something like that. She says, Cedric says, I love you. I support you. Mark says, I love you. I support you. Kim Kaufman. Oh, so when I said Kim Cox earlier, I bet you it was Kim Kaufman earlier too. One of the other phone calls, she said Kim being an advocate. And I don't know why I heard Cox that time, but that was probably Kaufman too. So Kim Kaufman said she has been an advocate for you. She says that she loves and supports you. So many people out here who just love and support you, Chris. I can't even tell you how many. All around the world, thousands and thousands, so many people. And Chris says, I've gotten a few letters from some friends. And then Jamie says, Bobby Sparks and JP reached out, said they love you and support you. Everybody, no matter what, they love and support you. And Cindy says, and we know the truth. And Chris says, I'm glad the people got something. I don't understand. Because that's another sentence. Chris is hard to understand in this. And I don't know if it's because he's the one in jail and the recording's just worse on that side. I'm not sure, but I have trouble understanding some of the stuff he said. But he said something like, I'm glad the people got something. That's good. And then Ronnie said, you have a lot of people who care about you, buddy. And Jamie said, what are they serving? Anything good? And Chris says, lunch was great. We had turkey. And Jamie said, oh, wow, cool. And Cindy said, did you get money on your commissary? Chris said, I've used it all because I didn't know how much I know I can't transfer it. And Cindy said, we will refill it at the next place, don't worry. And Jamie said, I want to send you a book every month. There's a lot I want to do, so let me know what I can and can't do. And then Cindy says, I know that. Will you fight? So she's responding to Chris when he says that he can't transfer his commissary. And she says, I know that. Will you fight? And Chris says, I'm going to stay strong. Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. Once again, he doesn't answer the question. Every time they ask about like fighting, he'll say like, I'm staying strong, I'm hanging in there, but because he doesn't want to fight. He knows that he did it. He doesn't want to fight. He knows he doesn't have his chance either, I'm sure. He's like, don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. I mean, what does that have to do with, are you going to fight? Anyway, then Cindy and Jamie both say, we know you're not going anywhere. We know that part, but will you fight this? And Ronnie says, are you willing to talk to an attorney? Cindy said, if we can get one set up to come see you, will you talk to them? And then Chris says, I'm probably not going to be here much longer. And Ronnie and Cindy say, I know that, but when you go to your next place. And then Chris says, I just want to see where I'm going to go. Maybe I'll go somewhere, or maybe I'll stay in Colorado, or maybe I'll go somewhere else. I don't know. It all depends where they want to put me. Once again, you can tell he's totally avoiding the question because they keep asking, can we send an attorney? Will you fight? And he's just saying, well, let's see where I want to go. Maybe I'll go somewhere in Colorado, go somewhere else. I don't know. It all depends where they put me. It has nothing to do with the question. He's just trying to like, oh, let's change the subject. Yeah, I don't know where I'm going to go. And hopefully, probably hoping they're going to start saying, oh, yeah, well, where are you going to go? And totally change the subject. But anyway, and Ronnie says, just think about it, okay? And Cindy says, will you think about it? Chris says, I just want to get through these past weeks have been really rough. So I just want to, and then Ronnie says, gotta give him time to get situated and get his mindset. And Jamie says, or Jamie and Cindy both say, we love you so much. And then Chris says, I just want everyone's last memory to be happy of everybody, you know? It's Jamie and Cindy say, they are. You don't have to worry about that. We all have happy memories to look back on. And Cindy says, stay strong. I don't understand, though, why you didn't want to fight. And Chris says something mumbly. And then he says, maybe that recorded call. I don't know what he was trying to say. Well, probably trying to change the subject again. I think he says something to the fact that about the calls being recorded again. Like, that's the reason that he can't talk about this wanting to fight. And then Cindy and Jamie say, I know, we know that, when we come see you. And if anyone comes to see you after you're settled, don't turn them away. Chris says, I know. And Cindy says, did you promise? And Chris doesn't respond to that. And then Ronnie says, did you watch football? And Chris says, I haven't had access since I've talked to you guys last. And Jamie says, me and Robert are buying a new house. We found a perfect house. It was built in 1978. It's an older house. It has 4 acres. It's behind the ballpark. But why not? Life is so short. So we're going to put this house up and see what happens. I have faith. I have more faith now than I ever have before. And then Cindy says, me too. And Cindy and Jamie says, I think we've all found God. If there's any something, you're the only one who could have done that. You brought us all closer to God. And that was because of you. All because of you. And Chris said, it's the saving grace with all of us. And Jamie says, yes, it's the saving grace with all of us. That he loves us and forgives us. And anything's possible with him. And Cindy said, there's a mountain to climb. You've got to climb that mountain. And he will get you there. And Chris says, that's true. Everything I've been reading. Everything you guys said. Maybe I read the same one every night, but I just take a book and read it. I don't think I read it cover to cover twice yet, but I probably came close. Then Ronnie says, that's a good thing. That's a good thing, son. We love you so much. And Jamie and Cindy say, yes, we do. You're in our hearts and prayers and in our thoughts every day. And Ronnie says, every minute, every night. Oh, he is precious on these recordings, to be honest. But yeah, he says, basically saying that Chris is in his thoughts every minute of every night. And Jamie says, when I get on the road to see my patient, I listen to Christian contemporary music. And I think of you the entire time. And it's uplifting. You've brought us all so much closer to God. And Chris says, that's what I was hoping. Every time something, I have something, trust me. So I don't know if he's saying, I don't know, I have to listen to that part again, but I'm thinking maybe he saying every time he has some kind of doubt that, I don't know, I'll have to listen to it. And then Jamie and Cindy say, I believe you have. And Cindy says, you made our Thanksgiving, honey. And Jamie says, sorry we're all talking over each other. We're so excited because we haven't been able to talk to you in so long. And Chris says something about, I'll call you guys 2 days in a row, it's a little different. Oh yeah, so he says something about like how he called them 2 days in a row, so it's a little different because he hadn't talked to him in 3 months, and now he called him 2 days in a row. So then Cindy says, call us every day, we'll have money on the card. Whenever you get to the next place, keep calling us, because Ronnie put and then he says, Papa put, and then he says, Papa, and then they kind of all laugh. And he says, your dad put $25 on the card. And he says, we had 50 on the card, but we don't know what happened to it. It's gone. And then Jamie says, you could call me anytime. I'll grab a card. And Chris says something about phone numbers forever. So I think he's talking about knowing Jamie's phone number forever, like he knows it because he's known it for so long. I think that's when he said something like that. Ronnie said, you got a memory on you, no doubt about that. And Cindy and Jamie say, yes, you do. You're not going to forget. And then they say, we are here for you, and we will never desert you. No. And Ronnie says, I'll always be here for you, son, no matter what. I know this is hard for you. And Chris says, it is. I know it is. Jamie says, do whatever you have to do to be safe. I worry about that. I just worry about you, and I just want you to be okay. And Chris says, I'll do whatever I have to do to stay safe. And Jamie says, have you been okay so far? And Chris says, yeah, I've been all right. And Jamie says, I wish I could bottle you up and bring you back here. And Ronnie says, turn back time. And Jamie says, turn back time. The unfortunate thing, we can't turn back time. Just know, no matter what, we love you, and that will never change. And we are always there for you. And Ronnie says, then Ronnie starts talking about sports to Chris. And then Jamie says, you talk to us now for the last remaining minute. And Chris says, I just want to say I love you and thanks for being there. Okay, so that's concludes the recordings. What do you guys think of those? Like I said, it's kind of crazy listening to this after the fact, knowing what we know, and just basically taking that snapshot of time way back then and listening to it. And like I said, I totally understand if you put it into context at the time and what the Watts were feeling and thinking at the time. It makes sense why they said some of those things and why they're acting that way and why Chris was acting that way. So it does make sense. You just got to remember when that was and what they were thinking. And yeah, it was very interesting, and I'd be interested to see what you guys think about that. Like I said, I'm gonna go through and perfect it as much as I can for the subtitles, and then maybe do a video subtitles for you guys so you can kind of follow along. Alright, well, I look forward to hearing your guys' comments. Chris Watts comments. Wow, it's just been so long. It feels like ages ago since I've even looked into this case, but like I said, I was so burnt out. Just imagine, well, you guys, a lot of you guys do understand this because a lot of you guys have been doing what I did for over a year. Every single day it was Chris Watts every single day, so I had to just distance myself, and that's what I did for that's what I've been doing for a few months. Just it was just I needed to look into something else and just kind of take a break out before I was just getting really burnt out. So it was kind of nice looking into this case again and thinking about it again and trying to put myself, like when you're really digging into a case, you're like so involved in it, and you're like kind of putting yourself right in the middle of it to try to figure out everything. So I haven't been in the middle of this case in months, so now that I'm not so burned out going back to it, it's not so bad to try to, maybe I'll do a few Chris Watts videos just to see if there's anything new going on. So yeah, let me know, because I haven't been really following the gossip and all the stuff that's going on with the Chris Watts stuff, because I know there hasn't been anything new as far as confirmation type stuff or like new evidence or anything like that. But I know there's been still a lot of interest in the case and a lot of the gossip and rumors and hearsay stuff and theories. So, but I haven't looked into it at all, really. So not only let me know in the comments about what you think about these recordings and my thoughts on the recordings, what you think of that, but also let me know what has been going on with the Chris Watts case. For those of you who know, kind of bring me up to date. Like, is there any new information or gossip that's been going on? Anything that I missed or that I should know, as far as just catch me back up to speed here. Just want to see if there's anything that I should know with this case that I missed out on. Just curious, because I haven't really been digging into this case in a while. So just if I missed anything, if there's anything real important that you think that I should know. But yeah, so hopefully you guys are all having a good day, and thank you to all my members. I love you all. You guys are awesome. I'm going to get that series out soon. I really appreciate my Patreons and members for supporting me. You guys are so awesome, and all my subscribers and all you guys that watch my videos and comment and show me love and likes and just write me awesomest comments and just view my videos all the time, and just thank you so much, because I couldn't do this without you, and I love doing this. I really do, and I want to keep doing it. This is what I do, you know, and I love the editing. I love the whole process. I love the research. I love the editing. I love communicating with you guys. I love the lives. I just love it all. So I couldn't ask for a better job. I really love it. And it's rare to find something that you love to do for your work. And I'm trying to make this a business. I really am. I'm trying to make this something that I'm doing. And that's what I am doing. But I just wanted to thank you, because I can't do it without all of you all. I really couldn't. And you make this be able to keep going. And I just love you all. I really do. It's just... for those of you who know my story, you know that I came out of some rough times, and when I started this channel, I was just starting to kind of get my head above the water as far as emotionally and mentally, and my sobriety and stuff. I was just starting to feel a little bit normal finally, because it was a long struggle. So you guys have helped in this process of me kind of getting back on my feet and being productive again, and you know, the socializing part and just everything. You guys have helped in my process. You really have. So thank you for that. I don't think you guys realize really what this channel has done for me, because like I said, I started it when I'm still healing. I still am healing, you know, recovering. So I started when was just, when you first sober up, I mean, you go through that period where, really hard, and then, you slowly start healing and slowly are able to start being productive again. And that's when I started my channel, when I slowly started getting better and I felt like I could focus and be productive again and just start healing and get my life back together again. And so you guys have been a part of this process, and I don't even think most of you probably even realize it, but you've been a big part of this process for me. And so I just want to thank you, because it keeps me busy, it keeps me productive, it keeps me on that path of sobriety and just happiness and just doing good. I don't know, I just want to thank you all. But alright, so hopefully you guys all are doing good, and you guys all have a good night. Bye.